Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
You know, there are so many issues that I have to talk about with the elder population, and there's someone that I know understands it so well. He's been, of course, he is a CPA, but he also has a kind heart, which I think is very important, and his name is Mark MOROWITZ. And Mark, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Mark, it's interesting, this whole population now, as one ages, 70, maybe even 60s, but 70, 80, 90, they're still the same person, but we start to get deficits, and it's not always their fault or our fault. What happens is if they're not driving, or if they're not seeing as well, or if they have some trauma in their life and they don't have the family surrounding them, it's much more difficult. Is this what you're finding in your capacity now?
There's a very big void and very few people to fill that void.
Well, and I told you when I first met you that I thought that you should consider becoming a geriatric care manager. And I don't know if you ever looked that up, but it is really what you're doing, you know.
I did look that up, and there are educational requirements involved in that. And frankly, I don't feel like going back to school at this point. I believe my work experience and my life experience, along with my financial experience, and my basic demeanor and my upbringing and my mother and father, I thank everybody. I feel like I'm accepting an Oscar. I believe that serves me well, and the fact that I have compassion and sensitivity.
Well, you know, the other thing is a lot of geriatric care managers don't have your financial education either. They're not CPAs. They're just really in more of a social. They're more social workers in a sense.
That's true, and I don't know if I mentioned before. I have a very close friend who's a psychiatrist, and he tells me that I do what he does very well, but just don't prescribe medication because I can get in trouble for that. So yeah. I do understand a lot. I think I'll leave the social working part to the social workers and just teach everybody how to work together.
Well, let me give everyone who's listening now a very good idea. I'm ANITA FINLEY, of course, and I'm talking to Mark MOROWITZ. And what happened is I have a friend, a very dear friend, as a matter of fact, and somehow things happen in the middle of the night. I don't know what goes on with people's homes in the middle of the night, but it seems that's the time. And somehow she fell out of her bed, and one thing led to another, and it got more serious because after they take you to an emergency, the emergency room of the hospital, then you come back and you're still a little shaken up. So when I heard this, I called Mark. I said, Mark, she really needs you because I can't get there and you have a lot of experience. And why don't you go and see? Because what happened, it wasn't to care for her bodily. It was because while she was gone, some weird thing happened and some company came in and they did all sorts of things that I thought were absolutely outrageous. And when I spoke to you, you said, yes, they are. And let me go and see what I can do. So I don't know of anybody like you that can do something where they'll take over. You know, we're not hiring a lawyer. We're not hiring a CPA because that's not what this situation is. We're hiring someone with compassion and who thinks straight, that's not a word, thinks straight and can assess the situation and act on it. Isn't that a good way to describe you?
Yeah, somebody who kind of knows what to do next. Let's call it that. And it was a very interesting call. And I kind of thought, all right, this is somebody who really needs to recover a few bucks, okay? And it was more of a financial thing. You had the rest of it covered. And if you want me to tell the story, I'll be...
You can
okay.
Tell the story because no one knows who this is, and we won't discuss it.
So I love telling stories, and I appreciate the time. So I made an appointment to go see her, and when I got there, I love to get places early, just in case I get lost. I don't like to waste anybody's time. So I was outside, and I waited for about 25 minutes, and I called to tell her that I was here, but she wouldn't answer the phone. And I don't think she answered the phone one time of the probably 20 that I called her. So I went up to the front door, and didn't find her name in the directory. So I said, I don't know what to do now. So finally texted her, and she did respond to that. And I told her I was downstairs, And this was after 25-mile drive. And she said, "Oh, I got to sleep late last night. Can we reschedule?" So of course it was a Saturday. I said, "Fine, no problem. This happens. I get that. It happens." So we rescheduled, and the next time I went, I did get to see her, and she told me the story, and basically what you were describing when she was she contacted the manager of the building where she lived, and the building manager suggested she go to the hospital. At the same time, the building manager saw her apartment, called a hazmat removal company. And they came and they threw out her bed. They just same thing as if there was a murder scene. And when she got home, actually they told her that it was going to cost her something like $9,000, and she said, $9,000? I don't have $9,000 to pay. And she said, and by the way, you threw out my bed. I have to go buy a new bed. And they said, okay. She said, I didn't ask you people to do this. They said, okay, well, how about 5,000? And they negotiated it down, and she, for some reason, agreed to that. And I thought it was ridiculous. And I was going to help her to get to the bottom of it and basically help her recover at least half of what she paid. But I realized, and then she told me that the building manager was the one who called this hazmat place because she had to. And I said, well, does that mean she had to because it was in the bylaws of the condo? I said, because I don't believe that that's probable. And so I said, can you get me a copy of your bylaws? And the bottom line is that I think at that point she decided to drop it, and nothing ever happened from it. But that's the way it goes. Sometimes, I can help people, and sometimes I can't. But I believe that we had a really nice conversation, and when she does need my services, she'll call me.
Yeah, she will. And I've talked about that because I actually talked to the manager myself before I even spoke to you, because I wanted to really know how serious this was. And she said that she was instructed by the people from the EMS who came, the emergency, right, to do that. Well, that definitely was wrong. So at least, were you able to get that bill reduced?
I told her I couldn't do anything until I had the documentation in front of me, because if in fact it was the responsibility of the building manager to call the hazmat place, then there was nothing I was going to be able to do.
Well, what happens? Her daughter did come down, and I don't know if you got to meet her daughter, but she came down the next day as an emergency.
That's why this woman got to sleep late, because her daughter arrived late.
That's exactly what happened. And I then talked to her. She said her daughter was calling them, was getting the money, something done about it. So now we already have people listening. John Considine and Gary Polk, and I now have you on Facebook Live.
Good.
Okay, I want you to do that with you. But this was the funniest thing. So her daughter was able to come down. But most daughters aren't able to come down. I think she stayed for a week. So the whole thing is you're like the daughter or the son in a way, but with a lot of professionalism. You know what you're talking about. And that's why I want people to consider this gentleman. I want you to get his phone number down. Mark Morowitz, and his phone number is it's not. And that was the other problem. We talked about it.
Right.
You don't have a local number because you still have it from New Jersey.
Correct. It's my cell phone number, and it's portable, and I was told nobody really cares anymore about local numbers. I do have a local number through Google, but I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, don't give it. We'll give your other number, but you might want to think about it, because most people will know you though, and then they'll know that's your number.
Right.
But I get phone numbers actually who are from far away, and I don't really respond to them because it always looks like it's somebody trying to get me to do something. Okay. So I just mention it. But let me give you his phone number so you have it now. It's 609-338-3803. Is that
3603.
Okay, I better get where I have my other stuff on here. Right, let me just do that right. Okay, here we go. It's 609-338-3603. And this is Mark Morowitz, and he is a CPA, and he's founder of the Morowitz Financial Services. Now, We just have another person that just came on. We have a lot of people listening to you, so you're gonna have to say some very important
Fantastic.
things. I think what we just talked about was what really happens is many times you want someone to get a lawyer, but I'm going to give you an example of something. I am an advocate when I don't get paid for this, but I do it because I know people, and if I see something being done that's not right, just like you, I go at it. And I have somebody that I think their will was wrong. It's somebody, they call it a hospice will, if there's another will that's been brought in erroneously within the last 3 months of a person's death, and
Okay.
that's tell you about that. So it didn't feel right to me. So I went ahead and called my attorney, and he said, I don't handle that, but here's someone that would, this other attorney, which he did, and he's now working on it, and he's now gotten a settlement. But now there's a problem that the settlement's taking too long, because you know what happens once it gets in the courts, and she's running out of money. So here she calls me again, and I'm going back to that attorney to act as an advocate. If this weren't something I was doing because as a friend, you could do this.
That's correct.
Isn't this exactly what we're talking about?
I step in as a son, as a CPA, as somebody to get the financial stuff done. I was just talking to somebody here in the studio and said it's very difficult being an executor. It's very difficult. It's thankless. You are entitled to get paid. Most people don't get paid because they're named as friends or family. It's very, very complicated, and you get stuck. And especially, you have to make sure that cash accounts are titled properly before, because if you run out of cash, it costs money to do stuff like this. You've got legal fees, you've got accounting fees, you've got tax fees. Anything that has to do with administration is very costly. So I try to step in if I know people beforehand and make sure that this stuff gets done. But yes, I would, step in as a substitute person to advocate for anybody who needs
I
this.
do this only because if I know someone and I see there's a wrong being done, I just jump in. But I'm going to give them your name because
Thank you.
this has been taking time now. I've been getting a lot of texts, and it's enough already. I can't deal with this.
Right.
But I just want everyone to understand the kind of a person that we're working with here at Boomer Times. So the fact that you could do this even if you didn't have a CPA designation, but the fact you have one, you do understand so much more than a social worker who would be doing it.
For sure. And I pity the people that try to do this without any kind of financial background. I get calls all the time from people. What do you do? And then there's people get angry. People, beneficiaries, there's fights between them all the time. I basically act as a mediator in a lot of these instances, and because they'll tie this stuff up for years. And those are issues that unless you've had experience, I don't think you want to get involved in.
Well, that's what the lawyers did. They wound up having to get they call it something else besides a mediator. And now they actually had to hire a tax accountant who was going to clean up everything before it could be settled. And everything's taking time.
That's right.
And so if you had been involved in this early on, maybe you could have helped. I don't know, because it was a little nasty fight because two of the people who were sons were really fighting the will. And so that's where it gets a little bit nasty.
You know what? I'll just bring this up. About 10 years ago, I was retained by an attorney to see if I could mediate this will. There were two sides of a family. There were two brothers, two sisters. Excuse me. And these lawyers couldn't get this thing done, and they had it for 6 or 7 years, and it really wasn't all that. The money had been spent down, so there really wasn't a lot left. And they asked me, they said, do you think you could do this? And it took me about 4 months. I met with the people, both sides, a couple of times, and I realized I was coming up to Christmas. And what better time to settle a financial dispute than Christmas time, when everybody has to buy their presents and everything? And sure enough, that's what we did. So it took me about 4 or 5 months, and everybody walked away happy. And I finally made them realize that I think a lot of people don't trust a lot of lawyers, whether it's deserved or not, but they do trust CPAs, and
That's
that's what I
true.
have going for me. I'm one of the honest guys,
Well,
and
you're also very sweet.
well,
I have to say. I mean, besides he's a nice
you're
looking
too
guy.
kind.
Well, he's a nice looking guy too, and he is very kind. And you could pick that up from people. I mean, you know the difference.
I have the perfect face for radio. That's
Your
all I can
perfect
say.
face. And you're down here now, and this is. Tell me why you decided to do this.
Well, I was. There were a couple of reasons. One was I was getting a little older, and I wanted to improve the quality of my life. And I remember coming down and visiting some friends, and we were on the beach in Delray on a Saturday in June, and we got there about 1 o'clock, and 2 o'clock, this big cloud came bursting in from the ocean, and that was it. Day was over. Everybody left. Nobody got upset, and I said, "Wow." In New Jersey, I was on the Jersey Shore. On the Jersey Shore, everybody would get upset. That Saturday, there's no more Saturdays. There's only 13 more Saturdays in the summertime, and I realized in Florida there's 51 more Saturdays, so it's okay. And I said, that's what I'm ready for. So I can, and this place, South Florida, has a lot of elderly people. I mean, it's a fact of life. So it was perfect for what I do, and it's been difficult for me to break into the market because a lot of people don't do what I do. Most people don't want to deal with elderly people because they can be difficult. They're set in their ways, but once they realize that I'm like their son and treat them with respect, we get along fine. And that's why I'm here, because this is the next logical place for me to perform the services that I'm so capable of performing.
And I was just thinking about something. We have a new advertiser, Kind Care at Home. He is so nice, and I think I need to put the two of you together because you could probably help his patients when he doesn't want to get into that, and he can help you probably with, I think it could work both ways. So I'm thinking as you're talking that I need to send your name to a few people who they're not in a business like you, in a way. Sometimes lawyers think they can do this, and I wouldn't do that, or other kind of people. But there are other people who really deal with the older adults who probably need to know someone like you. In fact, we just had, this is another interesting organization. It's called PAPA, Grandkids on Demand. We just had them on our show. And what that company did is they found students. They only deal with students, mostly college. And they have them going into the homes. They help them with technology. They drive them places. They do lots of things. They only charge, as a matter of fact, amazing, $15 an hour. And they will take someone shopping, and you can only do it 1 hour if you want.
Right.
So I need to put them in touch with you only because they may discover situations that don't seem right and where maybe they could turn it over, and then you may find people. You can't start taking people around like this.
Correct. And when
So
I
need
when
to
I
network this.
when I do visit people, a lot of times I'll notice that they have their hi-hat lights are out. They'll need a bulb. No, I don't have any bulbs. I'll take a walk over to the hardware store and
I'm
pick
sure
up some
you
light
would.
bulbs.
Yeah.
But I mean, this way I could hook
Yes,
these
you
people
could.
up, and
Same thing,
it's,
and
it's
vice
perfect.
versa. Yeah, because
Perfect
everybody
symbiotic
in our
relationship.
magazine is pretty much in the same, business.
Right.
And I think that it does. It would be very good for me to, now talking to you, thinking about that because of there's a lot of confidentiality too.
For sure.
And it sounds like you are very, very careful about all that. People, especially an older adult, does not want to open up their bank accounts or open up anything, and that's good to show other people. But on the other hand, there needs to be someone that they do trust that'll help their life. Otherwise, they could be sitting at home and not have enough money to do this, and it's all sitting in a bank account somewhere.
And let me interject. I don't do anything for anybody without their kids knowing and approving of what I do. If the kids don't get along with me, it's probably not going to work out. So I always make sure that everybody's involved in the decision-making process, or else, I have liability, and I don't, need some crazy beneficiary, suing me for something
No,
that
of course.
for good
No, of
intention.
course.
So Just as an aside. So I play the part of the surrogate son, the surrogate brother, and we all get along.
Right. That's and my guest is he's here in the studio with me, and I know the people who are now on Facebook Live can see him. And it's Mark Morowitz. He's the founder of MOROWITZ Financial Services. It's more than just financial services. I think you can hear that. It's a lot of things. The financial will come in, but I think it's the way I'm hearing from you is you're just going to help them too.
It starts basically with paying people's bills, and once what happens is, people who are older that don't have a lot of social contact, for them, my visit is a social hour, and it's somebody to talk to, and somebody who listens to them, and somebody that hears their complaints, and that's what it turns out to be. So from there, could you fix could you put a new light bulb in? Could you put a battery in here or something like that? And the same thing that you would ask your child to do, okay, if you were an older person.
Well, because you're becoming friends with them,
right.
And you see the thing.
Can you get me how about a ride? I need a ride to the doctor's office. If I happen to know some people that drive, and if Uber doesn't work out or taxi.
And now I'm telling you about somebody else too, so that's why, because you're in that business.
There you go.
And you can recommend people to do this. That's really very important. So I'm going to give you the phone number to call again, and don't be shy because it is a out-of-state phone number. It's 609-338-3603. Again, it's 609-338-3603. And Mark is someone who has just recently started his business. Probably it's been the last, 6 months here? You've been
probably the last three to 4 months.
3 to 4 months. And I think it's the right business for you. It's just going to get where some people have to know about you, and they have to then find the reason to call you.
Right. And it may be simple, enough of just doing somebody's tax returns to get it started, which is fine. I do that too. So anything financial that people have questions with, if whether it be for an elderly person or not. I mean, it could start with the kids, and the kids then, in fact, this person was telling me here before that as soon as I told him what I did, it's, he started telling me about his sister, that she probably needs some help. So it's just an entree into doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and that is working with older people.
I love that. That's actually, I grew up in Miami Beach, and because I saw all the older adults, and it was really, my heart was there. I knew that's what I wanted to do later on. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it did start that way.
Yeah. I there's so many of my clients. I have so many elderly clients that basically do tax returns for, and most of them are okay. It's when dementia starts to hit, or something like that happens, or some kind of traumatic event happens in their life. Basically, there's a lot of shame in things that they do if they think that it's not acceptable, or they were scammed or something like that, and they don't like to tell anybody that happens. But I try to get them all to call me first. If you don't think that it sounds right, call me, and they're getting good at that. I get calls probably 2 or 3 a week from older people telling me, I just got a call from the IRS. What do I do? I said, you did the right thing. I said, don't do anything. Just don't call them back. Don't do anything. And that's, I do that too. We protect.
And actually, Mark, nowadays a lot of us get calls. There's terrible calls that we get.
Horrible.
And even though I think I'm experienced, some of them got me a little worried, and I had to go finally and check up what that was. I've even had people on Facebook that are introducing me to people who turn out to be fake.
Right.
They're not even someone there.
Right.
So and especially for an older adult, that will really.
Let's face it. When somebody says to you, we're going to come and take you to jail, that's scary, no matter how old you are. So
that's true. We're all getting those kind of calls.
And if you don't have somebody to call, if you don't have a son or a daughter or a sister, it's very. What do you do?
You're a good person to do that.
I'm the person to call. Okay.
Okay. So then
Ghostbusters for the elderly.
Right. That's good. So now, if someone they know you and they just make one call, that's all right. But then how do you contract with somebody? How do you do that?
So we'll meet, and I don't charge people for my first visit with them. You know, I get an idea of what it is that they need, what they'd like me to do, and it typically starts with either coming to help them pay their bills, maybe even organize their financial the drawers in their file cabinet, throw out old stuff that they don't need anymore. And like I said, that's basically the social visit, you know, that they're there with me, and you know, they have somebody to talk to. And that's usually where it starts. And it'll either be, you know, prepare their taxes, find them an attorney to update their will, talk to their kids about something that they want to do, maybe, you know, sell their house, something like anything like that. So that's usually where it goes. And what I do is I basically charge by the hour. Okay. It all depending on what I do for them. But the interesting thing is somebody in my position, we learn how to find ways for people to pay us. Most people think they can't afford to retain me, but they can.
Okay, with that, we're going to say we'll get back to you another time, but we thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Mark Markowitz.
Thank you.
I'm sure that we're going to find some people that need your help, and you're going to like them.
Thank you. Until next time.